Hi everyone, welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul, and today we're going to be doing an overview of the new ASUS P8Z77-V Premium Motherboard. And to give us as much information as possible about this motherboard, we have brought JJ in once again. JJ, thanks again for stopping by today.
As always, thanks for having me, boss.
So this is a brand new motherboard, and as far as the Z77 motherboards in the mainstream line that you guys have brought to market, this is top of the heap.
That's correct, yeah. This is going to be the absolute kind of flagship in terms of the boards. As you know, that the Z77 chipset has now been out for a little bit, but we weren't able to bring this board to the market as of yet because it was still passing the final certification that was required for one of the key functions that are unique to this board.
And that function is?
Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Which sounds very impressive.
Yes, it does sound very cool. I think there's been a lot of kind of discussion, kind of a lot of people talking about this technology as when it was going to find its way onto the PC platform, and so we're really excited about being the world's first certified Thunderbolt motherboard.
Awesome. So bringing Thunderbolt to all of the PC users out there. And so let's get started. Shall we go over some of the features as listed on the box?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay. So we got, of course, here the front of the box. There's quite a number of different features and functions that are called on here. Of course, one of the first ones that we have here that's really important is going to be our Smart Digi Plus. This essentially is the incorporation of our digital power control technology on the motherboard. So essentially it gives you the ability to control and tune the parameters for the CPU, the VRM, the iGPU, and the memory. So that all can be done real time, whether it's in the UEFI or within the operating system. So a really nice implementation there. Also is going to help you to extend and improve the efficiency if you're somebody that's maybe looking more at kind of stock operation, or if you're overclocking, of course, is going to be able to give you a lot of flexibility being able to push the board.
Okay.
Here, of course, we've got one of the really new standout features, which is, of course, the Thunderbolt native port being built onto the backplane of the board. And we'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about some of the performance when we actually get to the board in itself. But here it is denoting to you the 10 gigabits in terms of the throughput. So that's going to be upstream and downstream because there's a total effect of 20 gigabits in terms of the throughput that's offered for the Thunderbolt implementation.
And just to give a comparison for those of you who aren't familiar with the numbers like 10 gigabits per second, fastest you can get right now with Sata Revision 3 is 6 gigabits per second.
That's correct, yeah. That's your theoretical throughput maximum. In terms of external interconnects, essentially the biggest point of comparison would be for USB 3. So effectively we're looking at double the throughput of USB 3's theoretical max performance, as well as offering some additional functionality and more specialized protocol support.
Nice.
So from there, one of the really cool things that we've added on here with this premium is an onboard Msata module. So the board does fully support the Msata spec. So if you wanted to, you can put your own like 120 gigabyte Msata on there and run that as your OS volume. But for you guys that are interested in running SSD caching on the board, it does come with a 32 gigabyte module built onto the motherboard.
Just right out of the box, 32 gigs?
Right out of the box, so you can use SSD caching straight once you go ahead and set up the system.
That's a fantastic bonus.
With Wi-Fi Go, of course, we've been big proponents of doing a lot of wireless connectivity and functionality on our series of motherboards for Z77. So this board's no different. You get dual band integrated on the unit, so 2.4, 5 gigahertz support with Bluetooth 4.0, plus our special Wi-Fi Go secret sauce in terms of the software. So that gives you, remote desktop, the DLNA media streaming and serving, and cool stuff like file transfer, like iOS devices or Android devices.
Very nice.
From there, we've got our Fan Expert 2, which is a hardware and software combination. Of course, this board, just like all our other Z77 boards, has got really outstanding per header control for both 4-pin and for 3-pin fans on the chassis fans, fully controllable in the operating system or in the UEFI with the automatic fan calibration. I think we did a pretty cool demo on that here, so if you guys want to check that out, I'd definitely say check out that video.
If you guys want to check out the video, we have a full Fan Expert demonstration with JJ. It shows you exactly how to use that feature and what benefits you can get from it, so check out that video.
Yeah, and here, of course, we've got just some of the other general technologies on the board, which I guess we can cover when we take a look at some of the topology of it. But, standards like, of course, SLI support. This board does feature a PLX Gen 3 controller on it, so that does give us the ability to up the ante from 2-way to actually 3-way and 4-way SLI support, as well as for, of course, 3-way and 4-way CrossfireX.
So for multiple GPU, if you like to use multiple video cards, or if you use a lot of workstation type add-on cards, you get plenty of PCI Express bandwidth.
Yeah, the other big factor in terms of having that controller on the board is to be able to maintain a whole bunch of active PCIe lanes. So that's going to be critical in terms of not only giving Thunderbolt its full maximum performance, even under, let's say, SLI and Crossfire configurations, but for other add-ons such as like our Ssd Caching 2 technology or additional add-on controllers like secondary NIC on the board, we want to be able to keep all those active, so we need enough PCIe lanes to do that.
Okay.
So from there, of course, we've got Lucid Virtual MVP, which is cool, which adds a little bit more functionality when we also have Thunderbolt on there, because we can even be able to maintain actually a DisplayPort configuration out in terms of passing video through, even while still using the storage functionality, while also even keeping an active GPU outside of the iGPU. So Virtuo on this even gives us more functionality in terms of just what it would normally offer when we incorporate it with Thunderbolt.
Okay, so it gives you much greater flexibility with the types of setups you can get going.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's cool to be able to essentially still utilize the Thunderbolt controller, but still be running your discrete GPU and essentially be running it in a headless mode. You don't even have to have anything connected to it.
Nice.
From there, of course, we've got the DTS Ultra 2 PC package, which gives us DTS Connect. So that's multi-channel audio encoding support as far as the audio pass-through. And of course, then we have support for all of Intel's current Core i7, Core i5, Core i3 series processors for the Ivy Bridge E and of course Sandy Bridge E Sandy Bridge if you're using that older CPU on this newer platform.
All right, so second or third gen Intel Core processors.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. So we move on to the board itself.
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right. I have it here. I like that you have stuck with the blue color scheme.
Yeah, we've you've seen that in terms of the aesthetic, it's pretty similar to, of course, all our other Z77 channel series SKUs. So the channel series are like our standard, Pro, Deluxe series models. But we have gone ahead and upped the ante a little bit aesthetically. So of course we use this kind of nice matte black PCB on the board.
Okay, let's flip around to the back so you guys can look at the PCB. It's always I love the black PCBs, especially the matte finish. It gives a real clean look to the case, and make sure that if you have additional hardware in there and you are going for a unified color scheme, which, let's face it, a lot of home builders do,
Sure.
Doesn't clash with that at all. It gives it a nice look.
Yeah, and of course from there we still have the standard color coding that you would expect in terms of our boards, where we try to have it look clean but also functional, right? Where you know, all the PCIe lanes, of course, have different colors indicating different bandwidth links. You know, sometimes we get questions on that in terms of why don't we maybe have all these slots be the same color? And that's because we want to make sure that it's easily understood, right? That this one might be, you know, by 16, and that one's going to necessarily maybe go to by 8, right? Or these two are by 16, and then these two are by 8, right? So that's what the color coding helps to represent.
Okay.
We of course have a full VRM heatsink with a heat pipe design to also go ahead and aid in the dissipation of the VRM assembly. So for those you know, high performance chokes, MOSFETs, drivers, we're keeping those effectively cool, especially as we overclock and we push the platform. So definitely a very robust cooling design that we have here.
And the heat pipe goes between this heatsink here and the...
Correct, yeah. So you're extending the dissipation from this primary heatsink array to then this secondary heatsink block.
Very nice.
So if we take a look at some of the I/O connectivity, which I think is some of the really cool, interesting parts of the board, we've got a lot that's going on here. So we've got USB 3 connectivity you can see here on the top, right? And of course, all the USB 3 ports on the board support our USB 3 boost technology that allows us to extend the USB 3 boost performance significantly.
Speaking of which, we also have a demonstration on the USB 3 boost. So
yeah,
you guys
I
can
definitely
check
say,
that
yeah,
out.
check that out, because it's, I think, one thing to talk about it, but another thing to be able to see the performance benefits that it offers. We've got then, of course, eSATA right here on the bottom. And then from there, here we go to our actual Wi-Fi Go module. So this is the one that gives us Bluetooth 4.0 and dual band wireless support.
So you have separate antenna that can break out to connect to each of these connectors here. And I do like that you guys have actually done a riser here backed by the I/O.
Yep.
Because it does add wireless, which a lot of people will add onto a motherboard in the future anyway if they don't have it. But also you get it right there without having to take up one of your PCI slots.
That's a great point, is that we maintain the spec functionality. So, you know, if you were running, you know, three-way SLI, you're not having to take up one of those slots and possibly affect your expansion capabilities because it's already integrated there into the backplane. So the next one right here is a really special port. This is the actual Thunderbolt port. So this is, as you guys know, a brand new standard that's come to the market in terms of interconnect, and it supports both PCI Express and the DisplayPort signal through one single bus. And as we noted, 10 gigabits upstream and downstream. It also has some specific benefits in terms that it can provide power. So from this being the host controller, it actually supports 15 watts out. And then from there, we also have special priority in terms of low latency and better synchronization for audio and video. So this is really key for guys that are doing content professional kind of related workloads. It's going to be a really robust implementation. The other cool part is that it does work in conjunction with the actual display outputs. So Ivy Bridge does actually support 3 digital displays, assuming you had 2 DisplayPort outs. So that Thunderbolt port can actually serve as a mini DP out as well. Okay. So we have an actual adapter here to show you guys. So this is a mini DP to DisplayPort.
Okay.
So you could go ahead and plug that actually into the Thunderbolt header and then connect that to your DP-enabled monitor. So if you were running the integrated graphics, you essentially could make connections to all the digital headers and be able to enable three displays at one time.
So particularly maybe for like a workstation type environment where you know, you're using your PCI Express for something else, you can actually still get triple monitor support. So you have lots of screen space for content development, and you don't need an additional add-on card or anything like that.
That's correct, and as we noted with the Lucid MVP support, it can also work in conjunction with that controller, so we could still have like a GTX 680 on here, right, running our games, and then when we're idle at the desktop, it could actually be working through the iGPU, and all that would be actually transmitted through the actual mini DP or the Thunderbolt display output.
Very nice.
It's a lot of flexibility there. We've got, of course, an optical output there that works in conjunction with our audio outputs, and the optical is going to support our DTS Connect technology. We then have two network ports, so one and one here. Both of those are actually Intel, so we make a step up even compared to what we were offering on the Deluxe, which was one Intel controller and then another one being Realtek based. These are both Intel LAN, and they both still offer the Network iControl packet priority software, so you can go there and tweak and tune it depending on your usage, right? Whether you're web browsing, streaming, gaming, whatever it might be, a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
We got the two USB 2 ports, USB BIOS flashback, which is an easy way, of course, to update the UEFI, no CPU, no memory, no graphics card. Or even if you did have it fully set up and you just want an easy way to do it, you know, just download it on a flash file, stick it into the port, and then from there go ahead and press the button.
If you guys have ever had BIOS updating woes, I highly recommend at least trying out the ASUS USB BIOS flashback implementation. It's real simple to use, and the fact that you can set it up without having to put your whole system together, just incredibly handy.
When you're first just setting up the board, it makes it very easy. Lastly, we've got two more USB 3 ports, and as we noted earlier, those do support the USB 3 boost, but they also actually can support our new USB Charger Plus technology, so that allows us to do quick and enhanced charging for not only Apple devices, but for non-Apple devices. So if you had, like, you know, a Motorola Razr phone, or, you know, you had a Transformer tablet, you could go ahead and assign those to get not only an enhanced charge, but also a charge through different S states, so like sleep or hibernation, or even when your actual system is shut down.
Oh, nice.
So that covers, I think, all the I/O connectivity that we have there on the board. I think lastly, just maybe a little bit of the topology that we have here.
Okay. Shall we start at the bottom?
Sure. So topology-wise, right, we're covering some of the key enthusiast parts that on an enthusiast platform we would kind of expect. So if we go down here, we can see here we have the Msata module support. So that's already on board with a 32 gigabyte, which you could use with the Intel SSD caching technology that's part of the chipset. But if you want to, you could, of course, easily just take that screw off and put in your own like 120 gigabyte Msata if you want to run entirely your OS from, let's say, an Msata disk. Down here, of course, we have a number of different high-performance buttons. We've got, you know, power, reset, the TPU and the EPU. TPU for a quick and easy overclock, generally about 4.2 gigahertz, and then the EPU is going to be for power conservation, lower temperatures, but won't affect performance. It's just an undervolt to the CPU. You've got debug, post LED indicator. This will work also in conjunction with like our QLED codes that are on the board. So there's a QLED for the CPU, for the VGA, for the memory, and for the post device. So depending kind of on your usage model, you can either look at those quick codes by each device, or you can look at the debug code to figure out what might be causing your system in terms of causing a post problem. Okay. From there, you've got also clear CMOS, you know, for you guys that sometimes need that functionality when you're overclocking the board. It's right there. It's good to go. Now, one of the cool things that we were talking about on this board is going to be some of the adjusted SATA connectivity. So I think if we take a look here at the SATA ports.
Wait, before we do that.
Yeah.
Surface mounted power and reset buttons.
Yes.
Sorry, I love surface mounted power and reset buttons. I just had to point those out. Anyway, SATA.
So we've got actually, as you can see, 8 serial ATA ports, and then there's actually one right here that's vertically. Okay. So we've got actually a total of 9. Now we also are featuring a brand new controller for our secondary serial ATA add-on. And this is going to be our ASUS SSD Caching 2 technology. This is pretty cool. So it's an evolution of what we previously had. Now, what it's going to be able to offer is essentially being able to take more than one SSD and be able to extend the performance of a mechanical hard drive even further. So with previous SSD caching technologies, you could only use one hard drive and one SSD. Here we can actually use up to 3 SSDs with a single hard drive, Or we could also go ahead and make multiple SSD cache configurations with the mechanical. So we could have one SSD and a mechanical, and then another SSD and a mechanical for extended storage performance configurations.
So you can plug in a couple standard mechanical hard drives here, and then an individual SSD to boost the performance of both of those. Now you're mentioning you can also do, say, a single mechanical SSD or a single mechanical hard drive, and then 2 or 3 SSDs.
Yeah, you could scale up from either mechanical with one SSD all the way up to one mechanical all the way up to 3 SSDs.
And do you get additive performance as you
Correct.
add more SSDs? Oh.
Yeah, and that's controller also has the additional benefit of being linked in by a by 2 PCI Express lane as opposed to being limited to 1. So you get much healthier throughput, up to 10 gigabits in terms of the actual throughput, as opposed to the 6 gigabits that's standard from that. Now, part of the other reason why that flexibility is there is even though you have SSD caching as part of the Z77 chipset, if you were, let's say, run RAID here on the Intel SATA 6G ports, you couldn't run SSD caching anymore on the Intel PCH ports. So then you could still from there have SSD caching enabled in terms of storage performance configurations on those ports. So you have the flexibility of kind of doing the configuration however you would want.
So if you guys want to boost the performance of your mechanical hard drives, you have just more SSD caching options here than I think I've seen on any board in the past. And I just want to go real quick the actual layout for as far as what's controlling what for your serial ATA here. So you have a integrated PCH as part of the Z77 chipset right there. That's giving you 2 SATA Rev 3 6 gigabit per second ports right there. Then you get 4 SATA Rev 2 ports that are controlled natively. 2 of them right here in the lighter blue port, a third right there in this lighter blue port, and then the 4th is routed to the Msata.
Correct, and then the new add-on controller actually provides us 4 ports, and then the eSATA ports that are on the back are provided by their own AS Media 1061 controller.
Okay, so lots of SATA connectivity.
Yeah, and then lastly, I think is just, of course, one of the big points that we see there in terms of the layout on the board altogether is, of course, a lot of PCI expansion. No legacy here at all. This is a premium board, and so we're definitely focusing on premium expansion connectivity. So 4x16 PCIe slots that you have there. So this board is natively designed for giving you pretty much the most flexibility at how you want to expand it, whether you want dual slot spacing between 2 cards, or even if you want to do 2 triple slot cards and still have spacing, you could do that. Or of course, if you're running 4 cards that are dual slot, you could go ahead and enable 4-way SLI or even 4-way Crossfire. So pretty much as much GPU expansion as you can readily do on a board right now.
So if you guys really want to get the maximum amount of video cards installed, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4-way SLI configurations for 2-slot cards supported right out of the box.
Yep, you got it.
And may I ask you, JJ, your personal opinion? Because prior to this, we've gone over the workstation board,
Yes,
which was the only board that you guys have had on the newer platforms that does support 4-way SLI out of the box. Can you give us your own personal opinion? The Z77V Premium versus the workstation board?
Well, you know, actually WS was probably my favorite board that we had in the lineup, but I think the Premium now takes that away because essentially we get all the flexibility that the WS had with the dual Intel NICs, which I really loved, and then the multi-GPU expansion support. And we get that, and we even add on the really cool stuff like the SSD Caching 2 technology and the wireless. So definitely it's going to be the Premium board.
So if you guys want the highest end gaming rig possible, I hate to make you choose between your children, JJ, but this is the Z77V Premium, really up there with the max you can get. Apart from the PCI Express connectivity, of course, we have all of the goodness of the 1155 socket here and combined with the Z77 chipset. Again, 2nd or 3rd generation Intel processors are supported. If you do go with an older Sandy Bridge Generation 2 processor, you'll get PCI Express Gen 2 support for your PCI Express slots right here. If you go with the Ivy Bridge Gen 3, you'll get PCI Express Gen 3 support for that. And then we haven't mentioned the memory yet.
Here, yeah, we were just showing, you know, 4DIMM support. That's one of the key areas that our Z77 boards have really been optimized for, not only on the UEFI level, but in the trace level design that we have incorporated on our boards. So this is 32 gigabytes of 1866 Corsair Dominator GT, but it could just as easily be running 4DIMMs, you know, G.Skill 2800 Trident X. So it's really up to the users.
And have you gotten a lot of good memory overclocking performance so far on the Z77 platform?
It's been outstanding. I think actually internally our team has now broken over 3200 in terms of the frequency.
That's pretty fast. And of course, we must go over the included accessories for this particular board. So starting over here on the left side, we have 6 total serial ATA cables. The black ones here are Revision 2 compatible. These are fully SATA Rev 3 spec'd out, so use those if you're using newer SSDs in particular. They also get a breakout box right here, and that gives you a couple USB 3.0 ports, so you can put that into a 3.5-inch bay on your computer, and it routes over here to a 20-pin USB 3.0 internal header. You can plug that straight into your motherboard. Also got some mounting screws there for that breakout box. You also have the Wi-Fi Go module, as we showed you, installed on the board. Here it is all by its lonesome. It does come with a screw to mount it to the bottom to give it a little bit more security as well, but that will go onto the header on the board. You also get a few different SLI connectors right here. So you have a ribbon-style SLI connector that will reach from the upper slot all the way down to the, wait, let me double check this. Yes, this can reach from the upper slot, so if you're doing first and third or first and fifth slot SLI, you can use this ribbon adapter for that. You also have the Big Daddy Quad SLI, actual rigid PCB bridge right there, and then if you're running three-way SLI, you can use this bridge right there. You also get a couple of these little connectors right here. This is the famous white Q connector from ASUS, and that will allow you to much more easily connect your front panel connectors. You also get a couple Wi-Fi antenna there to go with that Wi-Fi module. You of course get a front panel input-output shield, rear input-output shield with all of the plugs clearly labeled. And finally you get your ASUS instruction manual that you should keep on hand while you're doing your build, and the drivers and installation software. It's usually best to head over to the ASUS website to download the latest versions, but you can keep this disc on hand, particularly if you need to get an internet connection up and running. Anything else about the board you wanted to point out?
I think that pretty much covers most of the key features that really have this board stand apart in terms of really being the most feature-rich Z77 and probably almost one of the most feature-rich boards that's ever been put out in terms of the overall set of connections that you have available, expansion support that you have available, and configurations that you have available in terms of making customizations to all aspects of the board. So pretty awesome.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. Once again, this has been JJ from ASUS. We've been going over the ASUS P8Z77-V Premium Motherboard, the newest and highest end in the Z77 motherboard offerings in their mainstream line from ASUS. I'm Paul with Newegg TV. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please head over to our Newegg YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more tech videos. Also, you can head over to the ASUS ROG channel if you want to check out more of JJ's videos. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.